Disney recently released its new live-action Star Wars TV show, The Acolyte. Is it as bad as people claim?
Is that it? Just that one word?
Yeah.
Now, I will say The Last Jedi is still the worst Star Wars product to date because, at the very least, the show doesn't assassinate any of my favorite childhood characters. But based on the first 3 episodes, The Acolyte might make it into the bottom 3. But what I'm going to do today is go through a step-by-step look of each of the 3 episodes, and talk about why I think each one is pretty shit, especially the third one. Let us begin. So, we're introduced to an assassin who wants revenge against a Jedi. She goes into a really goofy stance, the 2 fight, but the assassin is overwhelmed. The Jedi figures out her identity after forcing the assassin to take off her mask, as if the top half of her face, hair, and build didn't give it away already. Now, to be fair, the Jedi recognizes her from when she was a Jedi 6 years ago, so you could argue she looked vastly different, but if that's the case, then why would the Jedi recognize her with just the reveal of the bottom half of her face? It doesn't matter though, because the Jedi gets killed. We're then introduced to our first
strong female protagonist
named Osha, and she's being blamed for the murder of the Jedi. But to spoil a very brilliant plot twist, Osha didn't do it. It was actually her evil twin sister that killed the Jedi. I'm not kidding, that's actually part of the story. So 2 Jedi dicklickers, one named Yord, locates Osha, and then we're given our first instance of painful exposition, where Yord decides to explain the tragic backstory directly to her face.
Your mother's, your sister, your village all died in the fire before Master Soul brought you into the Jedi. Your training was difficult, to say the least.
No reason at all other than to announce to the audience what Osha's backstory is. Or maybe he's just a dick for no reason, reminding Osha that her entire family was burned alive and she's a sole survivor. Osha is then arrested but escapes from being transported to prison, so we're introduced to another Jedi named Soul who vows to capture her. But before Soul leaves Coruscant, we get this hilarious scene of him and another Jedi walking in on Yord shirtless.
Master Soul.
Now, I know this might seem nitpicky, but scenes like this just disrupt the flow of the overall story. Not only is the gag of walking in on someone who's not fully dressed, only for that person to end up embarrassed, been done a bajillion times, but this type of comedy doesn't feel like it belongs in a live-action Star Wars product. It's not even a well-thought-out joke, it's just bland comedy utilized for filler. It's not meant to make you laugh, but to merely fill up time and represent a poor attempt of displaying a character's personality.
Master Vanestra.
How lucky these younglings are to have such a compassionate teacher.
I'm the fortunate one.
You and Master Indara were friends.
Oh yeah, forgot to mention. If you thought Ahsoka had wooden acting, it is nothing compared to this mighty oak of not trying. Now, I get the Jedi kind of have an excuse because they need to suppress their emotions, but I severely doubt the show would think that deeply about the lore or the characters. We get the reveal of the voice of the villain, who sounds incredibly bored, by the way, and then as he finishes his speech, the credits roll.
An acolyte kills without a weapon. An acolyte kills the dream.
Wow, that didn't feel rushed at all. This is filmmaking 101. You gotta let the scene play a little bit more so the audience can absorb the impact of the speech, have time to take in the scenery, have time to take in the characters, analyze their goals. It's like the show was telling the audience, yeah, we just want to get this shit over with too.
An acolyte kills the... Hey, what the fuck?
On to episode 2. I'm so excited. This one starts with the evil twin sister, named May, and she's on her way to kill yet another Jedi.
Attack me with all your strength.
You're gonna have her do that the entire show, aren't you? Yeah, I'm sure everyone will be doing this badass stance at Comic-Con. The only time someone would attempt to replicate this stance is if they're making fun of it. It's a goofy looking stance and a stupid line. This might have worked better in Clone Wars or another cartoon variation, but you have to know how to translate Star Wars into live action because some things just don't work with real actors. This is why the live action One Piece show is kind of off-putting for people, including me. It can't capture the same magic as animation. After failing to kill the Jedi, May runs into Asian Ezra Miller, whose acting is also very awkward.
Bunta, really? I need a drink.
We get yet another scene where one character explains something to another character, despite that character already knowing the information.
The Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace. Peace
Is a lie, I know.
There are so many ways to give exposition. Like Andor, for example, displays Cassian's flashbacks in different pieces, which not only tells us where he came from, but also keeps us on the verge of suspense, wanting to know more about what happened on his planet and how he ended up on Ferrix. But with the Acolyte, everything here is spelled out for you. Why bother trying when you can assume the audience has a second grade reading level? After May and Asian Miller have their exposition conversation, we get yet another one.
I wanted to save you both.
What happened that night wasn't your fault, Soul. I've told you that.
And I have made peace with what happened on Brando.
I know you have.
Oh my sweet Jesus, tell each other something new. I'm a vegetarian, therefore I do not eat meat. Yeah, I know. I'm also not the biggest fan of Wookiees. I'm well aware of this. Did I tell you the story about how 4 Wookiees walked into my store and never purchased anything? Those filthy hairy nutsacks probably stole themselves a large haul right under my nose. Oh wait, you were there for that. Now, as shitty as the dialogue is in Attack of the Clones, at least Anakin and Obi-Wan are reminiscing. Still awkward, but, you know, there's an excuse there. Here, it's just flat out telling people what they already know. The Jedi that Maid tried to hunt down ends up offing himself because he can't live with the guilt any longer. Why was he just floating around in his little Force dream instead of offing himself earlier? Who knows? Asha, Sol, and the other two find the dead Jedi and decide to capture May. We get an okay fight between Sol and May, which Yord watches from above. Do you really need those binoculars? They're right fucking there, dude. Speaking of the choreography, it's not too bad. I mean, it's nowhere near as impressive as the prequel trilogy, but it's also not god-awful horrendous like Ahsoka's final episode. The duels are passable, and they do find some, like, creative ways to integrate a fight between a Jedi and a Force user who's not necessarily a lightsaber user. Back to the story, May escapes her clutches, Osha finds May escapes again, and episode 2 ends. Next is the latest episode, episode 3. Now you're probably all thinking, first 2 episodes don't seem so bad. Yeah, the directing, acting, dialogue, and characters are bland as shit, but nothing too terrible. I am warning you right now. We're about to go from mediocre to straight up dookie water. This episode has caused old and new fans to rant about it. When something this horrendous comes out from Star Wars, there's always a major damage control campaign for the horrific writing, and this is one of those times. You have been warned. This episode focuses on the backstory of May and Osha. We finally get to see the totally non-repetitive backstory of, my entire family was killed and me only survivor.
Let it go, May. Stop!
Yeah, it's not like I just did the exact same thing 5 seconds ago. Osha and May live in a village of witches. If only. No, these are good witches. But even so, I'm still waiting for General Grievous to come out and start a rampage, because all these witches are fucking annoying.
Some call it a force, but we know the thread is not a power you wield.
So these two have to go through a ceremony to become witches, and their 2 lesbian moms disagree on whether their daughters should have a choice to go through the ceremony or not.
Power 1, power 2, the power of many.
You know what this is? This is someone's interpretation of a ceremony in a fantasy setting. The whole thing screams basic and bland. The writers know this is just nonsense they came up with in 2 seconds. Nothing about this chant is well thought out.
The power of 1, the power of 2,
The power within. The power within.
The power within.
One of us, gobble gobble.
And my god, is the delivery cringe. To me, it sounds like a group of preschoolers trying to pronounce numbers for the first time. Alright, class, can anyone tell me what comes after 1?
2.
Very good. Oh, and by the way, these guys have a different name for the Force. It's called the Thread, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, renaming the Force. It really does show how large the Star Wars universe is. But this episode in particular retcons Anakin being the Chosen One. Yeah, Disney already did it once, and now they're doing it again. Apparently the Force, the Thread, impregnated one of the witches, as if it's a virgin birth, something that was only done with Anakin to show how special he is.
Excuse me, Diesel, but there's an implication that witchcraft also played a part in this.
Yeah, and the Thread is what gives these witches power. So yes, Anakin is no longer the Chosen One, he's just another bastard of the Force. Go fuck yourself. So the Jedi come by and find out the witches have 2 children who are Force sensitive. Hey look, it's Tommen Baratheon from Game of Thrones. Neat.
You cannot deny that Jedi have the right to test potential Padawans. With your permission, of course.
So it's not really a right if you need permission from a parent or guardian. Oh no, a possible charming scene. We can't have that. Quickly, get back to the plot. Oh, thank God. For a second there, I thought I was gonna have an emotion for a character. Osha passes her test, and May isn't too happy about her sister leaving.
We're stuck here now. It's not up to you. You can't stop me. Yes, I can. How? I'll kill you.
So May literally pulls a "if I can't have you, no one can," and tries to burn her sister alive. Where the fuck did this come from? I don't know. I get her being upset about Osha leaving, but she just straight up tries to murder her right after? Yeah, okay.
Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
Osha gets saved by Soul, and she agrees to become a Jedi. After that, the most beautiful sight in the world pops up. The end credits. I've never been more happy to see anything else in my life. Thank fuck it's over. I might plan on reviewing the rest of the series depending on how it goes, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm curious if future episodes will top number 3 for being the worst Star Wars media we've gotten in a while.